And live from Pensacola, Florida, here at the Bay Center. It took a while for us to start this video because we were circling the arena to try to find an area to do this video, but we found one outside of the brisk outdoors. The game you just witnessed was inside, or behind you, here at Pensacola Bay Center. Southern Miss loses in the first round of the tournament 78-61 to the hands of, once again, South Alabama Jaguars. I'm here joined by Charlie Luttrell, as always, Austin Lindsey and Nathan Lee. Here all joining me is Dima Mixon here at Pensacola, Florida. Coming into the game, I think Jay Ladner said it the best in the post-game press conference, that being a 1 seed and drawing South Alabama as the 8 seed to start the tournament is just an unfortunate draw, Charlie. And you know, we said this on our pregame podcast where we broke down the men's basketball tournament. We broke down this matchup. Just a really, really tough matchup for Southern Miss, especially when, to start the game, Neftali Alvarez re-injured his foot, which he's been dealing with all season, in practice earlier this week. So he was a no-go. When you heard that, you just knew that Southern Miss was going to have to find something from another player, and they really weren't able to find that tonight.
Yeah, I think what we saw against South Alabama just a couple of weeks ago kind of happened in the end of the second half. But I think Southern Miss did make some good changes. They had the game, really. At the beginning of the second half, they were on a run and looked like they had at least some confidence. But, yeah, just the last kind of week of the regular season after that loss to South Alabama, they could never really find their rhythm offensively again. I feel like that just carried over into today. I think Denaje Harris kind of picked up where other guys weren't able to do, and that could have been matchup based because, I mean, he did a good job against Kevin Samuel, was causing a lot of problems defensively. But then again, for Southern Miss defending the ball, Owen White, same thing that happened in Mobile. He was just getting open looks. Didn't take as many, I don't think, but scored 26 points. Just absolutely made them, and Ladner said it, made them when it counted. They were big baskets. So, I mean, just not being able to contain Owen White, I really think made the difference because he made those baskets when it counted.
Yeah, and Southern Miss, you know, coming into this game, Nathan and Austin, you know, they really needed to be able to Jay Ladner said it, you'd think they need to be getting out early because South Alabama plays so good with the lead. And when it was like a 10-point game with about 5 minutes left, it just seemed like everything was just not going to happen there for Southern Miss at the end.
Yeah, I would have to agree, especially after you talked about Owen White. I think he hit a dagger with a three to put them up by like 10 or so like that. But that three just, you know, his threes kind of were timely. And of course, he was getting open shots, you know, from the three and just knocking them down. South Al had a great ball movement, too. And defensively, they played well. They shut down Southern Miss. Southern Miss wasn't able to get a rhythm going, and you could kind of see that rhythm, you know, go the other way for South Al. They had momentum. They had a big steal. Also, they had Isaiah Moore, who would come up big for them, too. So South Al did a lot of great things, and I think Southern Miss just couldn't get it on the right track. And especially like you talked about, 5 minutes to go, up by 10, you know, it just kind of felt like it was over for Southern Miss at that point right there.
Yeah, for me, you know, I told this to Austin during the game, you know, the biggest thing I was noticing, this felt like it was just a game of runs. Like the entire game was Southern would get a nice lead. Then the South Al would take the lead by like 5, and another run by Southern Miss. And then I leaned into Austin, I said, whoever has the biggest run in this game will win, and that was South Alabama. It was just one of those types of games. It was all about hot shooting. Southern Miss could not really get going from out there as much as South Al could. But that's what South Al does. That's what they've done recently in this season. I know Jay Ladner said in the press conference, like, they've kind of restructured their style, and it's really caused a lot of teams problems in the Sun Belt and outside. But, you know, it's just tough that you have to play. And like we've said this, like South Alabama might be the best team left in this tourney. And it just sucks that Southern Miss had to play them first round. But you got to beat them, like Jay said, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Nathan and Jay on this. Like, yes, of course, unfortunately, you have to play South Alabama to start the tournament. But you know what? You're going to have to play them anyway. Like not playing them in the first round, yeah, they could lose. But this team right now is just hot. Charlie, another big thing of the game, I know it's shooting, I know it's trying to guard Owen White, but the turnovers tonight for Southern Miss, sorry, I read that wrong. 16 turnovers, but 25 of South Alabama's points came from turnovers. Even if that's cut in half, it's a 5-point game, and if some of the things would go differently. It seemed like every single time Southern Miss was on one of those runs that Nathan's talking about, South Al could just do something. There was a foul call, there was a turnover, and then a quick little 7-0 South Alabama run that just kind of kept them in it the whole time until eventually all hell broke loose.
Yeah, 16 turnovers obviously is up there. Probably not, the worst they've had this season, but I can't really think off of my top of my memory some of them. I know there's some errant passes, but it's just the fact that South Alabama was able to capitalize that many points off of it. That's just so shocking. More so in favor to South Alabama doing a good job at doing that. So 25 points off of turnovers compared to 6, you said.
Yeah.
That tells the story right there. That's the scoring margin right there. They were able to hit their shots. I think the biggest difference was at the end of the first half too. Southern Miss had just got on that run, and then they closed it out at the 5-0 run, 1-point game at the half, changes the ball game. Obviously Southern Miss responded well, but same thing. It was just the whole game really throughout.
And the big three, as we call them, Austin Crowley, DeAndre Pinkney, and Felipe Haase. Austin, DeAndre with 4 points tonight, just 4 points tonight, without Neftali Alvarez, and South Alabama was all over Austin Crowley for most of the game. He couldn't get any open looks, maybe one or two, but Southern Miss has got to get more from Pinkney if they want to win games like this.
Yes, of course they have to get more from him, but he couldn't get it going, especially and Haase. The good thing for him that got him going was he was able to get to the free throw line. That wasn't the case so much for DeAndre with the 4 points. He was down low banging, but couldn't finish. And especially someone that came up big for them that filled the shoes with Pinkney was Denaze Harris. I think he had 18 points. I'm not looking at 16 points, and Haase had 18. But that was the thing right there. He couldn't get it going, and Denaze filled those shoes. But guard play was one of the biggest things for me. Was that South Alabama just had the better guard play with Isaiah Moore being able to facilitate the ball and move it around. Austin Crowley was trying to do a little bit of that, but of course, he was getting double teams a lot, and you could see it, and he wasn't able to get into that rhythm. I think that for the game he finished with 3 of 12 shooting on 12 points or so. So it was just a matter of having that flow, and they just didn't have that flow today. Yeah.
Nathan, Southern Miss did not substitute until with 2 minutes left in the first half. 19 bench points for South Alabama, none for Southern Miss. Does that matter that much, or do you think you trust your players in the end?
I do understand the philosophy of playing your best players. Oh, nearly lost it. Nearly lost it. But I get the idea. You always want to play your best. Yeah, you always want to play your best players, but you can't rely completely on them. You have got to get other contributions, and
that's why losing Neftali was so good.
Exactly. Neftali was coming off the bench a lot this season, and he was like that enforcer for that second team. Exactly, and I want to shout out Mo Arnold. He played some really aggressive defense against Moore. It's a tough matchup, and he was really physical with him and made it tough. The one thing I want to point out was all season, they haven't had a horrible half-court offense, but their offense has been known to really get going with transition. Jay Ladner alluded to this in the postgame, and they really just had no transition in this game. I don't know the exact points on it, but 15. It's just this team is not a half-court squad. They don't shoot the three well as a South Alabama. So if you're not getting your offense flowing how it's been flowing all season, how do you expect to beat a team that it's playing exactly how they want to play?
And just to add to that, Nathan, a guy, that's been huge in the rotation for Southern Miss only got about 3 minutes, and that was Donovan Ivory. And I was, curious about that. Ivory, I thought that he would play a lot, being that Neftali was out. You know what I'm saying? So you need that, guy to come off the bench. And Ivory has been that guy to come off the bench, but it wasn't the case tonight. So I don't know exactly what was the case right there with the coaching staff, but I think in a game like this, you have to play a guy like Donovan Ivory, yeah.
I'll just add real quick, I think it was more of a game flow kind of thing. Every time Southern Miss pulled ahead, they pulled right back, and you want your best guys. That's what Ladner was saying.
There was an immediate timeout until 12 minutes into the first half, too, so they're not going to pull them before the first immediate timeout, so it's kind of a game situation thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But at the end of the day, Southern Miss, I think that everybody alludes to it, that what they did this season was nothing short of remarkable. And, to win the Sun Belt regular season title is an unbelievable feat that nobody here would have expected. Nobody expected them to come to Pensacola this weekend and be the #1 seed in this tournament. And I wouldn't necessarily call today an upset. I really wouldn't. I just think that this team, South Alabama, Southern Miss just matches up really poorly against them. They just have the size to be able to handle Hasse and Pinckney, as we saw tonight, and they can shoot the ball where Southern Miss really just can't shoot the ball. And when they don't have that spark with Naftali being out, and they don't have the spark off the bench that South Alabama was able to gain tonight, it's just really tough to beat them. And really for, I would say 60 to 70, I would say more like 80% of the game, Southern Miss had the formula of beating them. So, being able to work with their possessions and rebounding, because they really rebounded the ball great tonight. Like everything was going well until that little 12-0 run that South Alabama had. And then Felipe Hasse said it actually in the post game. It was more of a mental breakdown than more of a gassing breakdown, which I can definitely understand. Playing sports, when you're embarrassed like they were 2 weeks ago against Mobile, and you come into this high stress of a situation, all the pressure is on Southern Miss. The pressure is not on South Alabama to win this game. It is all on Southern Miss because they're the 1 seed, they're the hunted, and they come into this game and you're doing well, and all of a sudden you're down 10, and that mental of like, all right, we got to make a shot, and when those aren't falling, the game just slips away, Charlie.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We talked about in our preview. This really was the team that we thought could be the toughest case for Southern Miss. This was really, and until that 12-0 run, it felt like this was the championship game. It was just high energy. You had both crowds showed out, for both sides, and both teams were just going at it. Southern Miss really had that chance to win, but yeah, once they got down the hole, I guess, they just started trying things, started chucking up shots, and that's just where everything fell apart.
I just want to add something. You talked about, earlier, it's like sometimes when it's these one-and-done tournaments, the better team does not win. Maybe it's just the hotter team, and that's what kind of happened today. You can debate which team has the more talent, but today it just felt like South Alabama was just the hotter team. They came in, they knew exactly how they wanted to play, and that's the biggest thing. When these one-and-done things, these one-and-done tournaments, basketball specifically, it's usually the hotter team rather than the better team.
I would say out of 10 times, how many times do you think South Alabama wins this game?
That's a good question, man.
I'd say more than 5.
I'd probably say 6 or 7.
I would say South Alabama's probably the better team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a fair statement. It's just one of these things I think of, like one and done. It's just so high energy,
For sure. The good news for Southern Miss is they were regular season champions, so this is not the end of their season, as Jay alluded to. Obviously, not a shot at the NCAA bid anymore, just because of the rankings and all that stuff. They just don't have really much of a chance. This is really a one big lead. Jay Ladner was actually arguing that it shouldn't be that. It should be more like a 2 or 3 team. But at the end of the day, Southern Miss loses here in Pensacola to South Alabama once again. Feels like it's always South Alabama. It's just crazy. But the NIT awaits them, so they're going to be waiting March 12th. Sunday, March 12th is the selection day for the NIT for Southern Miss to figure out where their destination alludes in postgame, in postseason play. But for now, that's it for us. Go watch on YouTube Jay Ladner, DeAndre Pinckney, and Felipe Hasse postgame. You can find that right here on Southern Miss Student Media. Go to sm2media.com. /sports to find the post game story. Also, we're still here. Southern Miss women's basketball playing tomorrow in the semifinals against Texas State. So be looking forward to our coverage from that. But for now, that's Charlie Luttrell. That's Nathan Lee. This is Austin Lindsey, and I'm Dima Mixon. Thanks so much for watching our post game instant reaction. Southern Miss loses first round action. Actually, this is technically second round. That's quarterfinal action to South Alabama, 77-61. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.